You've worked hard to put together your property and get it listed on Airbnb. But if you're a new host, then it's only a matter of time before you come across some guests that cause issues or make you second guess their stay. While Airbnb will allow you to cancel a reservation for almost any reason, doing so without a penalty or cancellation fees is another story. And if they're already in your property and you want to kick them out, you're going to want to go about it the right way. So in this video, we're going to go over how to kick out your Airbnb guests like a boss, and the 3 main ways you can do so without incurring cancellation penalties. But before we get started, our disclaimer is that this video is for entertainment purposes only and should in no way be taken as legal, business, or financial advice. With that said, let's take a look at some reasons for kicking out guests from your property. Your Airbnb is your home. While the company does not actively promote evicting guests anywhere on their site, a representative has stated that Airbnb cannot force a host to further accommodate a guest if they do not want to or are not able to for whatever reason. While guests can partake in some upsetting or annoying behaviors, most of those actions aren't likely to be eviction worthy. So let's take a look at the 4 most common reasons to evict an Airbnb guest. Violated house rules. One of the most common reasons hosts kick out guests is when they break the house rules. However, Airbnb does not consider all rules to be equal. For example, don't expect much support from Airbnb if you're trying to cancel a reservation because they wore their shoes in the house. But if your house rules include specific guidelines around noise at certain times of the night and smoking in certain areas, and your guest continuously breaks those rules, then you should be able to evict them. Having a party. After all the years of insurance claims to Airbnb's host guarantee, nobody dislikes guests throwing parties more than Airbnb themselves. They recently released a global ban on parties after they become such a nuisance in recent years, and they're quite strict about it, even going so far as filing lawsuits against guests who threw the party. So if your guests are throwing ragers in your house, or you believe they are about to, you should be able to cancel their reservation with ease. Overstaying their booking. When a guest books your property, they're making an agreement with you that the rental will only last for a certain amount of time. If somebody has stayed beyond their scheduled checkout time, then there's grounds to evict them. However, there are legal ways a guest can overstay their reservation and become a squatter. For example, if a guest has stayed in your place for about a month, or even just 2 weeks in some states, they can establish tenant rights, in which case you may have to take your guest to court and sort it all out through the eviction process. The exact duration of stay depends on local laws, so it's best to check with a landlord-tenant attorney in your area regarding long-term stays. Another reason Airbnb hosts often evict their guests is if they engage in dangerous or harmful behavior. This includes things like domestic violence, loud arguing, or engaging in criminal activity within your property. Safety is a top concern for Airbnb, so if your guest is participating in illicit or hurtful activities, immediately contact emergency services and Airbnb support, who will likely provide further instructions based on the situation. Now, out of these 4 main reasons for kicking out an Airbnb guest, the only ways you can actually do so without suffering a cancellation penalty are because of 1. Extenuating circumstances, 2. Unauthorized parties, and 3. The reservation was from Instant Book. You'll notice that the breaking of your house rules isn't on the list of penalty-free reasons for canceling a reservation, or even if totally different people showed up to your property. And the list of extenuating circumstances leaves little room for guests acting in dangerous or illicit ways. Extenuating circumstances cover things such as natural disasters, government travel restrictions, declared emergencies, and military conflicts. What's not covered? Everything else. However, penalty-free cancellations may be determined on a case-by-case basis, so be prepared to convince Airbnb support staff that you should not have to incur a penalty should your guest be involved in domestic violence or harmful activities. Good luck! Now, in the case of reservations that were from Instant Book, you actually have a limitation of only 3 cancellations per year that are penalty-free. Beyond that, you may be required to turn off the feature. That isn't a very big list, is it? So if you don't meet that criteria, there are a few things you may want to consider before kicking out your Airbnb guests. One of the biggest things to keep in mind before you kick somebody out is that Airbnb has a non-discrimination policy that you cannot violate without risk to your account. This means that you cannot evict someone for discriminatory reasons like race, national origin, religion, or disability status. And if you're canceling a reservation due to superficial reasons, then your guest may be able to make the case that it is due to discrimination. In fact, Airbnb has a lot to say about discrimination and has strict rules against things such as even inquiring about the severity of disabilities, making a determination regarding the suitability of your property, or even indicating a preference for a particular gender or age that your property is suited for. And if that's not enough, before you kick out a guest, you may want to consider the following. This could affect all future bookings. For example, if you cancel a reservation and receive a cancellation penalty from Airbnb, that cancellation may become part of your permanent public record and shown prominently in your reviews, which can very likely affect future bookings. Too many of them, and you may even be kicked off the platform altogether. You will likely get bad reviews. Believe it or not, the only time Airbnb doesn't allow a guest to leave a review is if they never actually stepped foot into your property. In many other cases, they will be free to leave a review for you after you canceled their reservation. What do you think they'll say? Very likely, your guest will leave a whopper of a review with 1 stars all across the board, affecting your superhost status and wreck your average ratings. This may lead to a lawsuit. Whether or not you were in the right, canceling a reservation may result in a lawsuit by a guest who is litigious and knows their way around a courtroom. In such cases, you should be prepared for anything, like a bill from their psychiatrist friend or from checking into the local hospital due to a quote-unquote injury that they may or may not have actually sustained at your property. Documentation is extremely important in this process, so that's why we recommend only communicating with your guests through the Airbnb app so that you have a written record for the courts to read. Now that we know more about what could go wrong, if you're still determined to kick them out, then it's important to cover what you should not do. Although it may seem like a good idea to take matters into your own hands, the last thing you want to do is evict your guests by yourself or even with friends. Not only do you run the risk of causing physical harm to yourself, but you will also forfeit any protections Airbnb would have given you, such as the host guarantee, turning off electricity or water to your property, locking them out by changing the codes, or jacking up the room temperature remotely while your property is occupied is also not a good idea either, as it is illegal in most states, and you'll run the risk of being thrown into the slammer yourself. So the time has come to evict your guests. You've weighed all of your options and decided that the cost of potential penalties are worth it. In order to do this smoothly and maintain the maximum protection from the law as well as from Airbnb, your options are unfortunately limited. The first thing you need to do is contact Airbnb support and let them know that you're going to be canceling your guest's reservation. Once they confirm it, your next step is to contact your guest immediately and notify them that the reservation is canceled and to vacate the property. In most cases, they will leave, and that's the end of the drama. But if they refuse, you'll need to contact Airbnb support once again and let them know that your guest refuses to leave and they are now trespassing. At this point, Airbnb should take over and request that you let them handle the situation, where they will try to work with the guest to get them alternative accommodations, which may take a few hours. Should the situation escalate, Airbnb themselves will usually handle contacting your local police department and work with them to evict the guest, which may also involve your cooperation. However, this is the best case scenario for you to maintain a good standing with Airbnb and benefit from the host guarantee. If the support rep doesn't seem to want to help you, then there's only one other thing you can do. In the event that Airbnb is not supportive of your efforts to evict your guest, your only other option is to call the police and let them know that you have someone trespassing in your property. In many cases, they will take care of it. However, not every state will allow you to evict people from your property, even if you did cancel their reservations and they are currently trespassing. If law enforcement isn't on your side, there isn't much you can do at this point, and you'll be at the mercy of your guest and the legal system. Unless, of course, you made friends with your local militia group, today's video sponsor, who can show up to your property with their big, giant muscles and scary guns to encourage your guests to leave. Just kidding. Definitely don't do that. So, what about you? If you have any stories to share about kicking out guests from your property, be sure to leave them in the comments below.